Welcome, everyone. Good evening, good evening. It's great to see so many people, despite the rain. My name is Josh Kramer. I'm the director of AJC New York, the Regional Office of American Jewish Committee, the global advocacy organization for the Jewish people. It is an honor to welcome you all to Strength in Unity, Challenging Anti-Asian and Anti-Semitic Hate. Tonight, in the vibrant heart of Queens, we gather amidst the bustling diversity that defines this borough to rise against the tide of hate targeting our Asian and Jewish communities. We are here not just for a lovely evening together, but to collectively commit to solidarity and action. For those unfamiliar, AJC, American Jewish Committee, was established in 1906 in response to violent anti-Semitism sweeping across Eastern Europe. Today, AJC remains committed to enhancing the well-being of Jewish people around the world and advancing human rights and democratic values for all. From our headquarters here in New York City to our 25 regional offices across the United States and our 15 overseas posts around the world, AJC works tirelessly to combat anti-Semitism and all forms of hate, building bridges between communities and promoting understanding and cooperation. Here in the 5 boroughs, AJC New York shapes AJC's advocacy across city and state, from City Hall and the halls of the United Nations to the state capitol and Congress and beyond. I want to take a moment to acknowledge and welcome special guests here this evening, a representative of the City Council Speaker's Office, Pesach Osina, and Jun Young An. Judges Evelyn Gong and Judge Cassandra Johnson. I want to... The speakers this evening will all be introduced individually, but I also want to take a moment to welcome a special guest, a friend of all of tonight's sponsor organizations, Frank Wu, president of Queens College, a tremendous partner and ally, as well as welcome AJC New York Regional President Rob Skolnick, a native of Queens himself, and a Queens College alum. You can learn more about AJC at ajc.org/New York, or find Rob, an AJC staff member, myself, in the audience. Tonight is presented in collaboration with our friends, the Committee of 100, the Queens Jewish Community Council, and with support, and support from the New York City Office of the Prevention of Hate Crimes and the JCRC New York. Tonight's event embodies our mission. We are here to ignite candid conversations and foster enduring partnerships to combat hate head-on, and with the help of our entertainers, a little bit later, to enjoy some rap and music. Following a panel of influential voices in hate crime prevention, we will have a special performance by the talented and energetic rapper Kosha Dillz and the captivating writer and singer Rebecca Lee Lerman. So please stick around for these incredible performances you won't want to miss. We are honored to have inspiring leaders from Queens with us this evening, Congresswoman Meng and Queens District Attorney Melinda Katz, who will each take the stage to share their insights and commitments to our communities and a message of hope, and a message from Queensborough President Donovan Bridges Jr. as well. Let us commit tonight to ongoing dialogue, collaborative initiatives, and resilience. Together, we are forging paths forward towards a brighter future, grounded in respect, dignity, and compassion here in Queens and beyond. Thank you for being here, for your commitment, and for your belief in a community where hate has no place. Together, we are stronger together. We will build a better tomorrow. Now, please join me in welcoming Queens District Attorney Melinda Katz. It's a maze back there, so you gotta get back through the curtains. Another round of applause for Queens District Attorney Melinda Katz.
Good evening. I was told to queue up, and I wasn't listening. First of all, thanks, Josh. You do that very well. I could use you at some of my events. So I want to just thank Meng for the work she does in the United States House of Representatives. She not only represents us well in Congress, she also actually helps us in criminal justice here in Queens County. We actually just solved a cold case using DNA from decades ago, and we used it partly by a grant given by Congresswoman Meng, and I want to thank her for her dedication to the people of Queens. To Barry, to Rabbi Waxman, to AJC, Committee of 100, Cindy, QJCC, everyone I saw at the breakfast last week. I want to thank all of you. I also want to acknowledge our bench, Judge Johnson and Judge Gang. You know, sometimes in a borough so diverse like Queens County, the first time anyone gets a sense of justice is when they are in front of our judges. And I want to thank them for partaking in our community events, as always. I feel like they're everywhere I go, so I want to thank them both for always being involved. So I am the District Attorney of Queens County. After December, because Mimi Rocha has retired, I will be the only Jewish District Attorney in the state of New York. Out of 62 DAs, there's me. It's an amazing thing to think about. A lot of obligation, a lot of responsibility, a lot of being outspoken about hate crimes, outspoken about anti-Semitism, but also having the role of being fair and having equity in the courtrooms, but safety in the streets. And we do that every single day as the family member and the niece of a man who fought in the War of Independence, the state of Israel being very strong and independent is an important part of my family growing up. You know, it was part of our dinner table and lunch. And my son just got bar mitzvahed. And, you know, all those things come together. And then I represent a borough of 190 countries and 200 languages. 49% of our borough was born in another country and decided to make Queens County their home. So 49% of the people that filled out the census were born in another country, didn't decide to make the United States their home, didn't decide to make New York State their home, didn't decide to make New York City, but they decided to make Queens County their home. And the obligation and the responsibility I feel for that is remarkable. So because I am the DA, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a few stats. In 2024 alone, 226 incidents of hate crime, 2023 alone, out of 226 incidents of hate crime across the city, 58% of those were anti-Semitic. 58% were motivated by anti-Semitism. This year, out of 39 hate crimes so far, 62% were driven by anti-Semitism. We are seeing some progress in the numbers when it comes to anti-Asian hate crimes being reported. In 2024, 4% of the hate crimes reported citywide were motivated by anti-Asian hate, 38% decreased over 2023. But I have to tell you, you can never give up. And you can't ever say, well, since it's not a per se hate crime, then everything's okay. The truth is, we have to make sure that when crimes are motivated by race as well, that we are on top of it, that we are after it, that we are prosecuting the underlying crimes that go with those actions. Very important to do every single day. I was the district attorney in the third month of 2023, the third month that I was the DA, the world shut down to COVID. And what the Asian community went through was really difficult to watch. I was lucky that I was in a position to hold people accountable for their actions. I felt a responsibility to that, and we did that every day. But to hold an event like this today, where we are all together and understanding each other's issues, is really extremely important, especially in today's day and time. I thank you. I'm glad to see all of you once again. And I'm going to turn the microphone now back to, I think I'm introducing the Executive Director of the Queens Jewish Community Council, Rabbi Waxman. Thank you.
Hello, I am Mayor Waxman. I am the Executive Director of the Queens Jewish Community Council, the QJCC. QJCC President and former State Assembly and City Council member Barry Grodanchik is here as well. QJCC is the non-denominational equal opportunity umbrella organization representing and uniting more than 130 Jewish organizations in Queens. QJCC has staff community workers who are the go-to for Queens rabbis and community leaders who have a congregation or member with a social service need. Aside from assisting residents with guidance on benefits, entitlements, and insurance, QJCC provides a kosher walk-in food pantry open to all, as well as delivered prepared kosher meals for homebound community members. For 5 years, I oversaw the senior centers at Self-Help, many of which have majority Chinese and/or Asian participants, like the center right behind us in Latimer Gardens. Some people are here from the center. So I have proudly been coordinating events with and for Asian Americans for years, and I'm glad to continue to do so. I can point out that there's clearly a deep connection between the American Jewish community and the Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. We know this because we're just 6 days into June, so just 6 days past May, and May is the month we celebrate Jewish American Heritage Month, while concurrently celebrating Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. How could it be any closer? QJCC works with our member organizations and community partners to provide valuable programming to the community like this. Tonight's event is part of the Partners Against the Hate Path Forward program. Path Forward is a New York City initiative supporting a network of community-based organizations that serve populations that are the most vulnerable to bias-motivated incidents and hate crimes. Initiated by the New York City Office for the Prevention of Hate Crimes, represented here tonight by Deputy Director Eunice Lee, Path Forward provides support to combat and respond to bias-motivated violence. There are 6 citywide community-based anchor organizations to spearhead PATH programs and services, and QJC's sponsoring anchor organization is the Jewish Community Relations Council of New York, JCRC. Unfortunately, the representative is under the weather, so we don't have someone here, but they are with us in heart. An event like tonight's has its clear positives. It's empowering, it's educational, there's food, and there will be entertainment. It's about communities banding together, and it highlights the government support there is against hate, support from our legislators, like Congresswoman Meng, as well as support from the Queens District Attorney, Melinda Katz, who in 2020 launched a dedicated hate crimes bureau, one of the first in the nation committed exclusively to preventing, investigating, and prosecuting hate crimes, which you'll hear more about tonight. We also benefit from the support of the FBI and the NYPD, also represented, and of course, it's important to have Governor Hochul's support as embodied by Eva Wyner. However, an event like tonight's is also a stark reminder that the reason there's so much support against hate is the despicable fact that there is so much hate out there that we need to unite and rally against. A sentiment summed up well by famed Nazi hunter Simon Wiesenthal, who said, "We need partners. We cannot fight against the neo-Nazis alone. We need friends. We can win them by telling them their history, by talking about the others, the millions of people other than the Jews that the Nazis killed. The Holocaust began with the Jewish, but it did not end with the Jews." QJCC is so proud to have partners like the Committee of 100 and like AJC, those partners have specific details on troubling rise in hate activities against Asians and against Jews. So I'm not going to get into numbers. I'll just focus on why we're here. Elie Wiesel was an author, a professor, a political activist, and a Holocaust survivor. In 1986, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize and was described as a messenger to mankind. At his acceptance, he gave a stirring and renowned address in which he declared, "Sometimes we must interfere. When human lives are endangered, when human dignity is in jeopardy, national borders and sensitivities become irrelevant. Wherever men or women are persecuted because of their race, religion, or political views, that place must, at that moment, become the center of the universe." He further averred that the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. The opposite of art is not ugliness, it's indifference. The opposite of faith is not heresy, it's indifference. The opposite of life is not death, it's indifference. By your attending tonight's event, you're showing that you are not indifferent. You are here because you are willing to interfere, and we need to know how to do so safely, legally, and effectively. So to that end, I thank the outstanding panel that's gathered here tonight. Again, thank all the politicians and their staff who work with us in these efforts. I thank the artists like Kosha and Rebecca who use their talent and their platform to fight the hate. I also want to thank the wonderful staff at the Flushing Town Hall who have been so supportive in tonight's event. Kevin Megan, Director of Facilities and Operations, Lissy Gold, Production Assistant, House Manager Frank, Stage Attendant Andrew, and Video Recording Matt, and I probably left out others, so we thank everyone involved. Fortune Glot Kosher Chinese Takeout for the food. Thanks all. Dara Horn, in her prescient award-winning book, The People Love Dead Jews, notes the Bible's famous call for freedom is let my people go. But in the Bible, these words are nearly always followed by another phrase, so they may serve me. The only purpose of this freedom is to enable the people to voluntarily accept divine laws, laws about welcoming strangers, loving one's neighbors, and accepting responsibility for creating a civic society of mutual obligation. The insane conspiracy theories that motivate people who commit anti-Semitic violence reflect a fear of real freedom, a fondness for tyrants, an aversion to ideas unlike their own, and most of all, a casting off of responsibility for complicated problems. The freedoms that we cherish are meaningless without our commitments to one another, to civil discourse, to actively educating the next generation, to welcoming strangers, to loving our neighbors. The beginning of freedom is the beginning of responsibility. QJCC aims to fulfill such responsibility and is grateful to all the leaders and individuals who work with us and who work towards such necessary goals. I want to thank our great borough president, Donovan Richards, who has been an outstanding partner in so many relative initiatives. The borough president himself planned to be here, but something came up, and he did not and would not leave us high and dry. He sent the very knowledgeable and capable Queens Borough President's Director of Immigrant Affairs, Vanessa Ordonez, to share some wisdom. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So good to be here tonight. Thank you. This message is on behalf of Queensborough President Donovan Richards, who could not be here tonight, but he still wanted the message to be said out loud. Hello, everyone. It is such a privilege to join you tonight to discuss a timely topic and to engage in bridge building. I want to thank the American Jewish Committee of New York, the Committee of 100, the New York City Office for the Prevention of Hate Crimes, the JCRC of New York, and the Queens Jewish Community Council for all the planning you put into this. And thanks to our friends at Flushing Town Hall for hosting us in your beautiful historic building. Anyone familiar with my administration is aware that fighting hate is a top priority of mine. It always has been, and you can be sure that it always will be. As a city council member, I proposed the legislation that led to the creation of the New York City Office for the Prevention of Hate Crimes. Enforcing the law and bringing perpetrators to justice is critically important, but the OPHC gives us the tools to address this toxic behavior before it escalates into violence. I was elected borough president at the height of the coronavirus pandemic, when it was clear that our AAPI communities were being targeted and scapegoated in very dangerous ways. At that time, the number of bias incidents and hate crimes also spiked in our Black, Jewish, Muslim, LGBTQ, and immigrant communities. That's why I invited interfaith partners and colleagues in public office to stand in solidarity with me at my March Against Hate, which began right here on the steps of Flushing Town Hall. Together, we sent the message that in Queens, the most diverse county in the world, hate will never be tolerated. On a regular basis, my office sponsors a wide range of programs and initiatives that aim to prevent this hate and promote bridge building instead. My Hate Crimes Task Force provides community partners with a forum to speak directly with law enforcement about these issues. We also hosted one of the mayor's first Breaking Bread Building Bonds dinners at the borough level. I also sponsor ethnic celebrations practically every week of the year, so true. These spectacular events recognize the contributions of our diverse communities to the borough, city, and nation. In fact, I just hosted 2 events recognizing AAPI Heritage Month and Jewish American Heritage Month. The Queens General Assembly, which was the vision of my predecessor, Helen Marshall, is now in its 21st year. My appointed QGA members break down silos by engaging in dialogue on a regular basis. I'm very proud that tonight, 2 QGA alumni, Mayor Waxman and Marissa Birak, were among the organizers of the program. And my Immigrant Welcome Center, that's me, partners with nonprofits that have the linguistic and cultural competency, as well as the legal and social service knowledge, to help our most vulnerable newcomers integrate successfully. The message I want to leave you with is that we have to be vigilant against hate and proactive about peace all the time. What I appreciate most about this program is that 2 of our cherished communities have come together to address these issues in a unified fashion, which has the effect of countering isolation and strengthening coalitions. Tonight, you are setting a valuable precedent. As I often say, what Queens does today The rest of the world will follow tomorrow. You have my full support and admiration. Power to you all. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Cindy Tsai, Interim President of the Committee of 100.
Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to see everyone here. I am Cindy Tsai, the Interim President for Committee of 100. Committee of 100 is a nonprofit organization celebrating its 35th year. Our dual mission has remained steadfast throughout the years, and that is to promote the full participation of Chinese Americans in the United States and to advance constructive relations between the United States and Greater China. Our mission is more important than ever before. Recent times have shown troubling surge in discrimination, prejudice, and hostility directed towards individuals of Chinese descent. This wave of xenophobia is deeply harmful and undermines the principles of equality and respect we hold so dear. Xenophobia is fueled by ignorance, fear, and misinformation. It thrives on stereotypes, exaggerations, and harmful narratives that paint Chinese Americans as foreign, other, or somehow responsible for the challenges that we face here in the United States and worldwide. It is important that we make a distinction between foreign governments and the people of that heritage. As Americans, we may disagree with activities of foreign governments, believing that those actions harm the United States and are against our values. However, as we voice our disagreement, our criticism, we must avoid attaching those actions to the people of that heritage. Unfortunately, we continue to struggle in this era. Here in New York City, over 50% of Asian Americans experienced hate bias or incident in 2023. And the result of that, 75% of Asian Americans here in New York City changed their daily behavior to avoid harm. And the thing that I want to point out here is District Attorney Katz mentioned the number of Asian American hate crime incidents have decreased, known numbers, right? So 80% of those who experience anti-Asian sentiment, bias, incident didn't report or didn't know how to report, didn't know how they could report. And so what Committee of 100 has taken on over the last year in partnership with organizations like TAF, the Asian American Foundation, is to create a hate tracker. The URL is quite simple, AAPIHateTracker.org, and we want to encourage everyone who experience or witness anti-Asian hate, bias, incident, crimes in New York City to report. This is a community project. It was made out of love for the New York City Asian American community. It's translated and available in 11 different languages. And the importance of reporting these, having the data, is so that we can go back to our elected officials, to policymakers, to show the scope of the problem and where we need help. Committee of 100 recognizes the challenges of discrimination and hate extends well beyond just the Chinese American community. We are proud to be partnering with AJC and QJCC to put together tonight's event as we think about safety for the AAPI and Jewish American communities here in Queens. We have a great program tonight. You have heard already from District Attorney Katz, as well as Vanessa from the Queensborough President. And I want to thank them for their commitment to public safety, as well as joining us here today. There are representatives from Governor Hochul's office, as well as New York City FBI Field Office, and the New York City Office of Prevention of Hate Crime. They will be sharing with you the work that they are doing and how they can be a resource to you. And then, as you have already heard, the evening will end with a treat from two performers who use their platform to bring awareness on anti-Asian and anti-Semitic hate. Before I introduce tonight's keynote speaker, just a few housekeeping matters. First, tonight's program is being recorded and photographed. Second, during the panel discussions, we will be taking questions. On all of your tables should be little cards with a QR. Just scan that on your phone and then you could type your questions in. And lastly, if you haven't done so already, please do silence your cell phone and other devices. Now I have the pleasure of introducing the representative for this congressional district. Congresswoman Grace Meng is serving her 6th term in the United States House of Representatives. She is a role model and has many firsts. She is the first and only Asian American member of Congress from New York State, and the first female congresswoman from Queens since former vice presidential nominee Geraldine Ferraro. In Congress, Representative Meng serves on the House Appropriation Committee, where she is the New York senior member and is vice-ranking member. For those of you who are unfamiliar, the House Appropriation Committee is probably one of the most important committees in Congress. They are responsible for the funding of federal government programs and activities. As a Queens resident, I take great comfort to know that my representative cares deeply about marginalized communities and uses her voice to elevate the needs of these communities. Congresswoman Meng serves as the first vice chair of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus. Some of you may know it as KPAC. She co-chairs the House Bipartisan Task Force for Combating Anti-Semitism and is a vice chair of the LGBTQ+ Equality Caucus. In 2021, Representative Meng worked tirelessly to see the passage of the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act into law. This law is just one of the many ways she is working to combat the rise of hate and violence. Let's give a warm welcome to Congresswoman Grace Meng.
I was laughing at all the other speakers because they got lost back there, and I'm like, I've been up there before, and then I got lost. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Cindy, for the kind introduction, and thank you to so many of you for taking time on a busy weekday evening to be here with all of us. I think I saw Rabbi Schwartz had mentioned this is long overdue, and I'm really glad that we are doing this. I do want to thank all of you because you made me look cool in front of my intern because he saw a list of the performers, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be in the same room as them. So with Kosha and Rebecca Lee Lerman, he was impressed that I was going to be at an event with them. But thank you to the Committee of 100 for your leadership, especially over the last few years as we combat anti-Asian sentiment and the rise continued rise against so many bad policies that put a target on our backs. To QJCC, I first learned about and interacted with QJCC, Barry, before I was even an elected official. And one of the most heartwarming things that I knew about QJCC, Rabbi Waxman, was that they were feeding people all throughout our borough and taking care of the most vulnerable and many times poverty-stricken members of all of our communities, regardless of what your background might be. And to the American Jewish Committee, thank you so much for your tremendous leadership, not just in the last few months, in the last few years. Many of you all know about the tremendous programs that AJC has throughout New York, Chair Skolnick, and including councils like the Jewish-Muslim council that wasn't just formed in the last few months, but it's something that I've been privileged to be a part of, and I've witnessed it grow in strength throughout the last few years and is needed now more than ever. It's so great to see so many familiar faces in this room. And as many of you know, New York has the second largest Asian population and the largest Jewish population of any state in our nation. I am honored to serve as New York's first and only Asian American member of Congress, and as a representative of Queens, naturally a graduate of Yeshiva University's Cardozo School of Law. And I'm so proud to represent an area that includes Main Street, where on one end is a vibrant Asian American community, and on the other end is a growing Jewish community. Today, I don't have to tell anyone in this room that our shared communities face many challenges, and the fight against hate is one of the biggest. It's not just mental and emotional trauma, but oftentimes physical, and sometimes to the point of death. In 2021, Cindy mentioned my COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, and we witnessed our communities come together and share support. When I was watching this rise in growing sentiment and discrimination and violence against my own community, what warmed my heart and gave me the most comfort wasn't necessarily Asians coming out to support Asians, but it was when allies, friends from beyond the Asian community that came out and came to our rallies and vigils. And it was the Jewish leaders here in New York and across the country that came to me and said, I know what your community is going through. We know what it's like to be hated. We know what it's like to be discriminated against. And they shared their wisdom and their experience and legislation that they had been working on for many, many years. And it was because of that coalition building, it was because of that empathy that we were able to provide important legislation like the Hate Crimes Act. This Hate Crimes Act is not a magic bullet, but it is an important first step in addressing and acknowledging a lot of the hate that's happening so that we can provide more effective solutions. This law has made reporting and data collection on hate crimes more accessible, especially for people who are older or who may have limited English proficiency. Included in the act is also the No Hate Act. These provisions provide federal support for state and local government agencies to collect data and started hotlines for hate crimes reporting. In the United States, prior to this law, there was no uniform system for reporting hate crimes or bias incidents. So you had, entities, government entities like the city of Los Angeles or Chicago or Edison, New Jersey, who reported in a given year that 0 hate crimes occurred in their jurisdiction. And this was because different law enforcement agencies and municipalities were using different forms of reporting these incidents and crimes, and many simply were not reporting because they were not required to. It was voluntary. So that's why we needed legislation like this, because when you don't have data, when you don't have statistics, it becomes really hard to address adequately what the problems are and to find solution. And if we don't know how many hate crimes have been committed, who the perpetrators are, who the victims are, where they're committed, we cannot possibly address them. And we are only able to collect accurate data if people are able and willing to report what has happened to them and if they feel that something is being done when they are reporting it. I want to give a special shout out to our Queens DA and to our 109th Precinct Inspector Coleman and your whole team who have been really responsive when our communities, our shared communities, has been dealing with these various incidents. And as we saw during the COVID-19 pandemic, many victims didn't have the language access or knowledge of the law to even report what they have experienced. So we talked about the House Bipartisan Task Force for Combating Anti-Semitism. This is a bicameral, bipartisan task force that was actually started before October 7th. And even before October 7th, we have been working in Congress to address gaps and loopholes in our existing federal law and statutes, and within each federal agencies to make sure that government resources are utilized effectively and that we can improve the law where it needs to be. This is anything from responding when a swastika is found in the halls of a government agency, to making sure that there is kosher food accessibility for staff, to making sure that agencies like the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights is better staffed and resourced, because as we are seeing incidents of anti-Semitism around our college campuses, there need to be people in place to be able to investigate these incidents, because right now their caseload is just way too high. So our office has also been working very closely with our local schools to champion and increase the money for something called the Nonprofit Security Grant Program. This is a federal program that helps faith-based nonprofit organizations secure their facilities literally from terrorist attacks and keeping our congregants and constituents safe. Since none of my colleagues are here, I will brag that my goal is to make sure that my district gets the highest amount of NSGP funds. You don't have to tell them. They don't need to participate. We'll just say we won. But anyway, if your organization is interested, please feel free to reach out to us. But I really wanted to thank so many of the organizations that are here today, because our community-based organizations empower us. They empower our neighbors to share about their experiences and advocate for changes in our laws. And just as importantly, they help us to build up relationships in our communities to work to prevent hate-motivated violence. Just prosecuting people for hate crimes, just charging for hate crimes is not going to solve the problem on its own. We must empower our community-based organizations to address the violence and to address the lack of relationship building that really needs to be enhanced, even in a diverse borough like Queens. Oftentimes we are operating in our own silos, and in a diversity like New York, when I look at just Main Street, between one end in Flushing to the other in Kew Garden Hills, how much do you really know about your neighbors? How much have you really interacted with them and tried to understand their contributions, their culture, and their trauma? Borough President Donovan Richards' office talked about the vigil, the rally that we had here at Flushing Town Hall. This was really meaningful to me as an Asian American. We worked together to make sure that it wasn't just Asians coming out to support Asians. We had rabbis, we had imams, we had Reverend Al Sharpton come here to Flushing, Queens, to stand together with and say to the Asian community that they have our backs. And so I wanted to also give thanks to Borough President Richards for being one of the most effective bridge builders in our city. But events like these today, events like the rally, multicultural rally that we had right here at Town Hall, are reminders of that power and of the beauty of allyship and solidarity. As we reflect on our past and envision the future we are all fighting for, I'm so glad to be standing alongside you all. There may be many people in the room today and people in our communities that feel very abandoned and neglected. And I say, as an Asian American, that I am here with you and for you, and I'm not going anywhere. I will end with a story that many community members in my district have already heard, so I apologize. But when I first had the opportunity to run for Congress, my grandma, who actually just turned 100 years old, she didn't have a high school education, college education. She never ran for office, but she gave me this tattered black and white booklet when I first ran for Congress. And I said, what is this? It looked like she'd had it for decades, which she did. And the title of the booklet was The Jews in Shanghai. And this is a piece of history that I never knew or learned about. And she said to me that our communities are tied together forever, and that it was part of my responsibility to make sure that the Jewish community here in Queens and New York were protected. Now, from everything from that direction to going to church on Sundays, I take my grandma's advice very seriously. And so I'm really proud to represent a diverse community. I think now more than ever, we really need to have more conversations like this, and not just conversations, but find ways to show us putting actions behind our words. So thank you for doing a great event like this.
Thank you so much, Congressmember. Please continue to put your hands together. And welcome to the stage, Eva Wyner, Deputy Director of Jewish Affairs for the Office of Governor Kathy Hochul.
I had a home field advantage. I staffed the governor's Lunar New Year reception here last year, so I was able to navigate the backstage. Good evening. I am deeply honored to be here with you all tonight. Of course, thank you so much to Congresswoman Meng and DA Melinda Katz for your leadership. These moments in these past few months have been wrought with division and sadness, but tonight stands in direct contrast as we come together united against the hatred affecting our communities. I am proud to stand here as Governor Kathy Hochul's Deputy Director of Jewish Affairs. We gather tonight as a united community dedicated to combating hate. The rise of hate crimes against our Asian and Jewish neighbors reminds us that intolerance and bigotry still persist. These acts of hatred against our shared values of diversity, inclusion, and mutual respect. Anti-Semitism was already on the rise before October 7th. Now the hate that once hid in the shadows is rearing its ugly head. That is unacceptable. Here in New York, when someone carries out an act of hate, we don't just call it out, we act. With the advent of COVID, attacks on members of the AAPI community increased. We stood up and we said, no, that's not who we are as New Yorkers. We don't accept this type of hatred. We don't accept this intolerance. We bring people together. Governor Hochul has been a steadfast leader in the fight against the wave of violence and discrimination. Under her leadership, New York has taken significant steps to ensure the safety and dignity of all its residents. It starts with changing our laws. We are taking on hate crimes with more force than ever before. In our newly enacted state budget, we significantly expanded the list of crimes eligible for prosecution as hate crimes, adding 28 additional offenses. And 2 years ago, under Governor Hochul's leadership, we changed the bail laws to ensure they cover hate crimes, giving judicial discretion to those perpetrating this evil on our society. It is largely due to the support of the Jewish and Asian communities, working together, side by side, to advocate on behalf of these changes. And as a result, our governor held up 2 budgets to ensure our Jewish and AAPI neighbors are safe. Fighting anti-Semitism and anti-Asian hate requires resources. In this year's budget, the governor allocated $35 million to the Securing Communities Against Hate Crime grants, adding $10 million from the previous year, totaling $60 million in the past 2 years alone. These grants boost safety for organizations at risk of hate crimes. In October, we allocated $50 million in grants for local law enforcement to prevent and solve hate crimes and other crimes. Last year, we allocated over $30 million to uplift programming, cultural endeavors, and opportunities within the AAPI community. And this past Rosh Hashanah, New York State responded to President Biden's national strategy to counter anti-Semitism with initiatives including a hate and bias prevention hotline, an anti-hate and education center, which is focusing this year on anti-Semitism, and specific law enforcement training focused on investigating hate crimes. One of the cornerstone initiatives of Governor Hochul's administration is the establishment of the hate and bias prevention units housed under our Division of Human Rights. These units, comprising diverse community members across the state, lead public education and outreach efforts, serve as an early warning detection system, and quickly mobilize to support areas where bias incidents occur. But the fight against hate cannot rest solely on the shoulders of our government. It is a collective responsibility that requires each of us to stand up, speak out, and take action. We must educate ourselves and others about the histories and contributions of our Asian and Jewish communities. We must challenge stereotypes, reject bigotry, and support those targeted by hate. Our diversity is our strength. By standing against hate, we affirm our commitment to these values and to each other. In the words of Governor Hochul, we cannot allow hate and intimidation to become normalized. We cannot risk losing our identity as a place known for acceptance. Hate has no home here. Let this be our guiding principle as we work together to build a just and more compassionate world. It is now my honor to introduce my friend and colleague, Shawn Ma, to moderate tonight's discussion. As Director of Asian American Affairs for the New York State Executive Chamber, Shawn is the governor's liaison to the AAPI constituency across New York. Shawn assumed the role at the start of this year, previously working as a special assistant to the Chief of Staff. Prior to joining our administration, Shawn served as the Director of Operations and Strategic Projects at City Hall. I have seen Shawn's ability to cultivate relationships between our administration and constituents in the AAPI community firsthand, and it is a pleasure and an honor to work together on these shared initiatives for intergroup collaboration. I applaud Shawn for his leadership in implementing Governor Hochul's inaugural AAPI commission last month, and I look forward to our continued collaboration. And a huge shout out to AJC, to the Committee of 100, and to QJCC for convening tonight's really important event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eva, for the great introduction. Good evening, everyone. And I also want to mention I'm a proud member of Committee of 100, Next Generation Leader, Class of 2024. Thank you for having me moderate this panel discussion. And it's an honor to be here today in Queens, where we stand united against the tide of hate that has impacted our Asian and Jewish communities. And thank you for joining us in this vital conversation that aims not just to discuss, but to forge real paths towards unity and action. Tonight, we're privileged to have with us a distinguished panel of experts who bring a wealth of knowledge and experience in combating hate crimes, fostering community solidarity, and advocating for justice. Let me introduce them. Eunice Lee, Deputy Executive Director at the NYC Office for the Prevention of Hate Crimes. Christle Lendore, Community Outreach Specialist with the FBI. Gabriel Mendoza, who is the Assistant Deputy Chief of the Hate Crimes Bureau and Deputy Director of Litigation Training at the Queens DA's Office. And last but not the least, Sara Monaghan, Supervisory Special Agent with the FBI. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for being part of this crucial discussion. Before we dive into our panel discussion, I'd like to engage with our audience. By a show of hands, how many of you have witnessed or experienced acts of hate or discrimination in your community? Thank you for sharing your experience. This only underscored the importance of our gathering here tonight. So in my role as the Director of Asian American Affairs, my daily work is all about connecting with the communities and making sure their voices are heard in state policies. I focus on understanding different cultures and creating a dialogue between the AAPI community and also the state government. A typical day for me involves meeting with community leaders, attending events, hosting forums and discussions like this to understand the needs and concerns of the AAPI community. Addressing hate crimes is also a critical part of my job. I collaborate with state police and community organizations to ensure swift and effective responses to hate incidents. We hold workshops and trainings to educate the community on how to report hate crimes and to increase awareness of the available resources. By building trust between the community and law enforcement, we work together to ensure the safety and well-being of all individuals. One other thing I would like to re-emphasize is that a month ago, the governor urged all eligible nonprofits to apply Securing Communities Against Hate Crimes grant program, just like Eva just mentioned. The governor spotlighted these available resources during a roundtable discussion with synagogue leaders, many of whom represent congregations that received bomb threats the weekend before. That being said, I'm dedicated to supporting the Jewish community as well. For instance, I recently marched in the NYC Israel Day Parade with Governor and Eva, showing our solidarity. I believe, thank you. I believe in building strong alliance between the AAPI and Jewish community to fight against hate and discrimination. So Gabriel, why don't you start first and tell us about what you do and how does your agency collaborate with communities to address hate crimes and ensure the safety and well-being of individuals within these communities?
On the spot to start? No. So I'm the Assistant Deputy Chief of the Hate Crimes Bureau in the Queens DA's Office. So Sarah and I were talking about this when we were discussing today's panel. We are inherently reactionary, right? There are events that take place in the community that are either criminal in nature or not, and our role is to investigate alongside the NYPD, primarily the Hate Crimes Task Force, which is a task force through the NYPD dedicated to investigating and apprehending individuals accused of committing hate crimes. So our role is to investigate the incidents that may or may not be crimes, and if they are, may or may not be bias related, and then determine what the appropriate outcomes, resolutions, potential pleas, mental health programs, or other potentially incarceratory sentences are required based on what happened, as well as based on what the circumstances of the unique incident is. So as part of that larger scale law enforcement endeavor, we have a lot of community engagement. We engage with, for instance, the ADL is a big ally of ours in terms of information sharing and providing us with resources that we otherwise may not have access to, that allow us to obtain further information, that allow us to investigate cases, as well as be aware of what's going on in the communities, not just Queens County, which is where our jurisdiction lies, but understanding what's going on in the community, in the city as a whole, so that we can anticipate what could potentially be occurring in our community and effectively use the appropriate resources to combat hate crimes.
Thank you. Eunice, what about you?
Yes, thank you so much, Shawn. I also wanted to say just thank you to everyone for coming out tonight. I see some familiar faces in the audience, and it's always great to work together. We've worked consistently with Community of 100, AJC, QJCC in the past, and we hope to connect with all of you. I think the reason why all of these panelists are here tonight is to really be accessible. We are here for you, and that's kind of my job and my role. We want to make sure that people are getting the information that they need. So I just want to say thanks. And I did want to just kind of build off of what Gabe just said. So he mentioned him being kind of responsive and reactionary. So as our name implies, I work at the Office for the Prevention of Hate Crimes. So we are looking at not only short-term responses and how do we coordinate all the different people throughout the city, including community folks like you, government agencies on the local, state, and federal levels. How do we think strategically about how to think about response as well as prevention? So I loved how Shawn kind of framed it as in a day in the life. So my day in the life can look like in the morning we're looking at hate crimes resources and trying to think of how to get the word out into communities about reporting and making sure they're in languages that are accessible. Doing that, translating, working with different city agencies that are doing that work. I could be going to a community event in the evening and talking about our work and the office. We're only 4 years old, so a lot of people haven't heard about us. Doing that, also working collaboratively with communities through resources like funding. So Mayor, I'm not sure where he went, but he always did a great job kind of introducing our Partners Against the Hate Network. So that is a network of over 60 different community-based organizations representing the diversity of New York City. And we fund them up to $3 million to do the work that they've been doing in their communities for decades now. So we like to say that people that are closest to the problem are closest to the solution. So we're really thinking about how to fund things that are happening on the ground in terms of upstander trainings, thinking about like subway situational awareness. How do we get those resources out? How do we work with people through the aftermath of an incident in terms of mental health resources, legal support? So there's a lot of things that our office does, but I wanted to really highlight that all of us work together. We're a team, we work collaboratively. So if you have any inquiry, any thoughts, if you reach out to one of us, we'll know who to send you to if it's not us. We're always here to assist and support.
Thank you so much. And we also have two FBI agents here. Tell us more about what you do.
So as mentioned before, my name is Sara Monaghan, and I'm a Supervisory Special Agent in our New York field office over a team of investigators who is responsible for conducting investigations into civil rights violations. And more specifically and applicable to this evening would be investigations into federal hate crimes. So as Gabe mentioned, he works closely with the NYPD and the NYPD Hate Crimes Task Force. Our partner would be the U.S. Attorney's Office, and specific to you guys would be the Eastern District of New York. So they cover Brooklyn and Queens. So those are our prosecutorial partners. So we do work jointly with NYPD Hate Crimes Task Force as well to conduct investigations into hate crimes. So the main thing that we try to get across in events like this is that we are responsible for conducting investigations into violations of federal law, whereas the NYPD is responsible for conducting investigations into violations of state law. So in New York State, as Eva mentioned before, we're about to go from 67 to 99 potential hate crime eligible charges. And why that is significant for us in the FBI is that the way federal hate crime statute is written, basically the state goes first. The state has first right of refusal in prosecuting hate crimes in New York State. If there's an incident where the state doesn't have jurisdiction or chooses not to work the case and hand it over to us to work on a federal level, that's when we would get involved. So in other states where there's not as significant hate crime law, you might see on the news something that has a similar incident may have occurred in this area, and it's not being charged federally, but it would be in, I don't know, for example, maybe like Wyoming, which does not have as stringent hate crime law. So that's the big difference between what goes on in New York State versus other states when it comes to federal law. So we do get questions a lot of like, how come the FBI is not working this? And I don't want to say luckily, but luckily we have a lot of hate crime eligible charges in New York State and an entire hate crimes bureau in Queens as well as in Manhattan and other boroughs as well. So we really are sort of a backstop in the event that the state requests our assistance or chooses not to prosecute something.
Christle?
So ultimately, as a community outreach specialist, Sara's role is more reactive, ours is more preventative. So everything that she just said, what we try to do is make sure that the public understands that exactly. So oftentimes, the public or the certain communities, they don't know what a hate crime actually is, and they think anything that is hateful, that is said hateful, constitute as a hate crime. So my job, or community outreach, when we go into communities, is to try to help you understand what exactly a hate crime is. And what we do is we bring something like this so that you can look at it, so you can have a better understanding of what the law actually says. Oftentimes, you don't hear anything back because there's an investigation, and what we try to do is help you understand a little bit better how that cycle goes, so that you don't feel like this happened to me, I'm a victim, and no one cares. We do care, but oftentimes we're not at liberty to say what's happening. So my job is to make sure that we are communicating with the community, letting the community know, hey, we are a resource. You can report things to us in addition to your local law enforcement, and to also make the communities feel a little more safer and having a dialogue of information between the two of us.
That's amazing. I want to ask this panel, how do international events shape sentiments locally among Asian and Jewish communities? And what steps can we take to foster a great sense of belonging, solidarity, and healing within these communities, or community more generally?
I mean, I guess I could just, in terms of hate crimes and how we see them reported, international event, not just international, but events that are taking place in the real world in real time are very much a part of how these cycles come and go. Obviously, everyone is aware of the uptick in anti-Asian crime during and in the immediate aftermath of the COVID pandemic. If you pay attention to the news, to the media, to cultural events, if you'll recall, Kanye West was very much in the media for his anti-Semitic sentiments that he was spewing. Kyrie Irving and other NBA players joined in that. In those types of events, we see upticks in not just hate crimes, but as I think, as Christle was saying a moment ago, incidents that are hate-related or bias-related, whether or not they rise to the level of a crime or criminal conduct. These things do tend to be cyclical based on the events that are transpiring in the world around us. So we are always cognizant of what's going on locally, nationally, and internationally. Obviously, with the things going on in the world, you're going to see particular demographics that are being more targeted by individuals who are seeking an outlet to express hate of any kind, dependent on who it is that they choose to hate that day. So it very much is a part of our awareness, being aware of what's going on, being understanding of what to expect in light of current events, and kind of just preparing ourselves for what could come next. So obviously after October 7th, for us, we're like, okay, we have to prepare for an influx of anti-Semitic crimes. Luckily, Queens hasn't been as impacted as other communities, particularly in New York City. We have not had as large a rise in anti-Semitic hate crime as some other areas. I'm going to knock on wood because it's very fortunate. But we still have to be vigilant about that for obvious reasons and prepare ourselves for what could potentially come next. And that's obviously not over. We have to be continuously cognizant of that as we go forward.
I can go next. Is this the pattern? Kind of like jumping around. Yeah, so I think I wanted to respond to a few things that Gabe had mentioned, and also to kind of the survey of the room earlier. Everyone raised their hand. I think this is kind of preaching to the choir, but hate really impacts all of us. We say that hate against one is a hate against all of us, so I think understanding these movements, understanding these trends, really acknowledging with communities that what you're feeling, the pain you're feeling, the stress, anxiety, the fears are real. I think that's really step one for our office, and kind of like responding to the things that we're seeing internationally, locally. Also realizing that hate crimes and hate are unique in the fact that you don't have to be directly affected to really feel the impact and feel the ripple effects. I think that's why this conversation is so important, just realizing that if you see something on the news, on social media, it doesn't have to be happening right next door for it to feel very real to you. So I think our office, the first step is really being able to hear what people are going through, to really take that seriously, and then to really go on forward and thinking through, like, what does safety look like to you? Let's take the AAPI community, for instance. We're not just one block, one monolith. Again, I'm not going to preach to the choir, but needs are very different from community, from person to person. So really thinking through safety planning. My office doesn't provide direct services, but we always know people that do. That's why we have our community network and our city network. So really thinking through the aftermath, and if government doesn't have a space there, making sure to either support resource-wise or making sure that space is provided for communities to think through the hurts that they are experiencing. And then also to just think creatively, what are different solutions, what are long-term ways that we can partner together and collaborate with you to make sure that these things are not happening again, so that we can understand where they're coming from, where the roots are. I think if we take, for instance, the kinds of hates that we're seeing, there are many ways that these movements are cyclical. My office was created in 2019 because of the trends in anti-Semitism that we were seeing at the time, and unfortunately we're seeing those things still. But looking at that and noticing that there's rhetoric that is very harmful, that is taking root from different ideologies in different places, but the hate is really impacting all of us, and it's our job to make sure this language is cut off, is stopped, and that's what our work is in trying to build for the future in that way. So those are just a few of the things that I was thinking of.
One of the things that I think has been touched upon before with some of the previous speakers is, and one way that we like to get out with the community is to get the word out on reporting. Everyone mentioned reported hate crime numbers, and I think we all know that reported hate crime numbers are not actual hate crime numbers. Often when speaking with victims, hate crimes in particular seem to be the type of crime where often people are embarrassed to report that they may have been victimized, because if you are a victim of a hate crime, someone is targeting you because of who you are, right? Who you are, what you believe, and that's very personal. So hate crimes are a very personal thing, and that's sort of why we think a lot of people don't report them, because they feel stigmatized or embarrassed that they were targeted for that. So we are not able to work a hate crime or conduct an investigation if we don't know that a hate crime has occurred. So that's one of the things that we do try to do, is really impress upon the community that we are supportive and interested in conducting investigations, whether it is at the state level or at the federal level. We are here to support the community, and we can't support you in the way that you need to be supported and apprehending subjects and getting them off the street if we don't know that something has occurred. So that's one of the things that I think is really important, and I think throughout all of our various roles, we all understand that hate incidents are significantly underreported. So we just really encourage you, whether it is, you're calling the local police department, your local precinct, you're calling the FBI, let someone know, and then let us work it out, whether it is a federal investigation or a PD investigation.
One of the ways that we try to make sure this happens within the community, we have at the local level and also a national level, forums. We call it a community engagement council at the FBI. And what we do is, when we go into the community, the leader of the community, the activist, whoever has the furthest reach within the community, we invite them into a panel with our executive management, state, local law enforcement, the DA, various different agencies are also present in the room. And what we do is we kind of have a round table, and we discuss what's happening in the community. Why is it being underreported? Or did you report something? And in that room, whatever is being discussed, we are able to kind of tackle or mitigate to the best of our ability, or at least be aware of what's going on within the community. So that is something that's happening at the local level. But also, one of the things that you were talking about is how are we building, in a sense, overall, right? On the national level, we're also able to do the same thing, so that each office, wherever, within the US, we're all kind of having the same narrative. We all know what is happening, so that we're all aware of what we should be talking about in the different communities. We invite the various people in, and one of the things that we have, let's say, mitigated already, underreporting based on language barriers or based on shame, various different issues. And what we've done, we've tried to address those different challenges, whereas we have interpreters for any and every language that you can imagine and think of. And what we've done is we've taken our, let's say, our hate crime poster and had it translated into different languages so that when we go into a community, you can understand what you need to do and how you need to do it. When you call the FBI to make the report, you can speak in your own native tongue and be able to, express what happened to you so that you don't feel that there is a barrier or any kind of miscommunication. So we are trying our best to, address certain issues within communities as to why it's not being reported. But if we don't know what the issue is, then we can't address it.
Thank you. And thank you, Eunice, for bringing up social media. I think many of us has experienced either anti-Semitism or anti-Asian hate online. Here I have a question from the audience. What can be done to stop hate on social media? I think we briefly mentioned about the importance of reporting, but for social media specifically, is there anything we could do?
I guess I'm starting. Honestly, it comes down to reporting and awareness, right? Again, one of the challenges with dealing with hate crime, specifically charging a hate crime, is there has to be two aspects of it. There has to be criminal conduct, and there has to be an element of that crime that it's either motivated in whole or substantial part based on a belief or perception about that individual who's being targeted, protected class. So social media is a tricky subject because you overlap with the First Amendment right of free speech, which obviously has its limits, but we have to be cognizant of what is being said, in what venues they're being said, because that very often either directly leads to criminal action or violent conduct or just destructive conduct in whichever way, shape, or form it takes. But it also provides individuals an opportunity just to be amongst people that empower that type of thought process or behavior. So I mentioned earlier, we have, Eunice, we've talked about this, just different groups coming together. Sharing information is so valuable among these various organizations and groups with the same goal of combating hate crimes, because even if it's in social media, comments or posts that aren't necessarily criminal, it's important that we're aware of them so that if those actions are elevated, we have an opportunity to have a good starting point of where to look. But even before we get to that point, maybe taking steps to prevent that type of action or behavior or that platform from existing in the first place. So sharing of information, and we've talked about, I think this has been a common theme already, reporting, right? Being aware of and reporting whatever the conduct is, whether it rises to the level of criminal action or whether it's actually motivated in whole or substantial part by hate and it's just words. We need to know about it, and you need to know about it as members of the community, and sharing that information with people who are in a position to impact that behavior going forward is incredibly valuable.
I don't want to jump out of order, but I just want to piggyback.
Let's change the order up a little bit. I'm tired of going first.
On what Gabe was saying, but again, to the point of of social media and posting things, if you are an organizer who maintains the social media presence, you run the Instagram, you run whatever it is, and you receive a message or see a posting that's hateful, report it. Right? Because you may not know that similar organizations across the country have received similarly or identically worded language. And
they're often monitored.
Yeah, exactly. And we are able to then put that together. So that goes to pattern and practice, right? Where someone is targeting groups all over the country using the same type of language. And as we know, people often are much more free with their words on social media than they would be in other places. So again, report. That's one of the best ways that we can try to combat things on social media is if it is reported and these people get charged, hopefully they will learn a lesson.
I love the dynamics here, just being able to jump through. First of all, I love this question. I wonder who asked it and if we could just connect afterwards because I have a long response to this. But just some key points. So a few years ago, we had a youth leadership council. And then it was a bunch of high schoolers from across New York City to really consult on these issues, think about what they're experiencing. And one thing that we were hearing consistently is youth saying, well, 90% of the time I'm at home playing a video game, talking to people, and I'm hearing this hateful language all the time. So we really were thinking deeply about these issues. And there is a spectrum. There's a difference between that kind of speech as well as the extremist rhetoric that you might see online. addressing it is going to look a little bit differently. But I think one resource for this person in the audience, please again find me, that we looked at was something called dangerous speech. So they're kind of thinking about inoculating audiences around this type of behavior and kind of learning how to de-escalate in a safe way, and also kind of like navigating that for yourself. So this is a resource for young people, older people like myself, and just general audiences. So that's a resource that you can check out. They have like little graphs and graphics around different tools that you can use when you're seeing these things online, and how you can use that to kind of address those kinds of behaviors, including things like reporting or like flagging it for that kind of server or whatever platform you're on. So that's a really great resource that I would recommend checking out.
I would also add that the one thing that makes America great is the fact that we do have free speech, right? The catch-22 to that is that people can also use that for hate. So if we're talking about hate, you're not going to be able to stop that because some people are just wired to do that. If we're talking about a hate crime, then we're talking about something different. So the way the question is worded, I'm not really sure if you're talking about someone just saying, if we're just talking about hate, or we're talking about a crime that, that needs to be addressed. So I just want, although we're up here and we're talking, let's just be crystal clear that the Constitution gives us the right to say what we want. You may not like what I say, I may not like what you say, but at the end of the day, when it transitions into something being a threat, harmful, hateful, then that's something that needs to be addressed. Sometimes there's nothing you can do but just, turn it off when they are saying hateful things, unless it then ticks these boxes. And I have some of these that we can also give out at the end if you would like to see if what you're experiencing you think is a hate crime. If it matches all of these boxes, then you definitely want to, when I say report it, you definitely want to go ahead and move forward and kind of have that conversation about what the next steps are.
And just to add to that real quick about social media, even if it doesn't rise to the level of criminal conduct as we've kind of been discussing, it's so important to know about it. If somebody that we can identify later goes on to commit a crime that otherwise doesn't necessarily have an explanation to it, but there are surrounding circumstances and signs that lead us to think maybe it's bias motivated, and then we come to find out that weeks or months or days before the incident occurred, they were posting hateful language about a particular demographic or group or area. That could potentially, while in and of itself not criminal conduct, could be evidence of their motive and intent in a crime that they later do commit. That could allow us to charge somebody with a hate crime that otherwise we may not be able to charge, or at the very least enhance a case against that person for that conduct. So again, coming back to the common themes, awareness, reporting, and just being diligent is of so much value in this particular area of combating hate crimes.
Gabriel, I have a follow-up question for you. So from the DA's perspective, how do you differentiate hate and hate crime? And how do we know as an ordinary citizen how do we identify what is a crime and what is not a crime?
Yeah, it's tough, so it's twofold. First of all, whether or not it's a crime, and then if it is, whether or not, again, it's motivated in whole or substantial part on the belief or perception about the membership of the protected class. So the criminal conduct isn't as difficult to determine. Criminal conduct is codified. We know what's a crime and what's not. There are laws in place. The other aspect is a little bit more difficult because it requires us to kind of make a determination as to what somebody's motivation is. And this is one of the very, very few areas of criminal law, the only one that I deal with, obviously, where the motive of somebody behind their conduct is an element of the crime that must be proved. Not just relevant and important to our understanding, but necessary in order to prove it. And that can sometimes be tricky, and we kind of have to take a total, overarching view of what transpires. You have two individuals who are arguing over a parking spot. One of them starts saying some hateful language and a fight ensues. Is it clear-cut that in that particular circumstance they're motivated in whole or substantial part by this person's membership of that class? Or are these ugly words that are accompanying an other motivation? I don't like that you cut me off. I don't like that you took my parking spot. That is why I'm assaulting you. And in the process, to be hurtful, I'm going to say ugly words. I don't expect people in the community to understand that difference. I don't expect you to have any other feeling than, well, that was a hate crime because of the things that were said to me. I completely understand that sentiment, and you have every right and every expectation to believe and understand that's what the motive was. From our perspective, we have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt in front of a jury that their motive was not the fact that you cut them off or the fact that they wanted that parking spot, but it's because of who you are and who your membership is, what community you belong to, or your religious expression, your sexual orientation or identity. That is the question that we have to ask, and that's oftentimes very difficult. So we have to take an entirety, a look across the board at what the events were, and like I mentioned a moment ago, it's kind of social media. If there's an incident that takes place and this person has otherwise posted very hateful posts or messages on social media, they have a background or a history of these types of behavior, well, that's evidence that their motive may not have been the parking spot. Perhaps they would have just yelled at you and walked away, but for the fact that you were Asian American, but for the fact that you were Jewish. So it's important for us to understand the totality of circumstances, and it can be challenging because those determinations are not always easy and not always not always clear. Exactly, they're not always clear, and they're not always easy to explain. I've had to have a number of difficult conversations with victims of crimes where I have to explain to them what was done to you was absolutely awful, and this person is being charged with a crime, and what they said to you was disgusting and awful, but I don't see a world where we can prove beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury that the motive behind it was, surrounding the words and language that was used. So it is very challenging at times. Not everything is clear-cut, and it takes some time to understand what the circumstances were.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, not to complicate things further. First of all, Gabe, I always love hearing you explain things because this is very confusing, and I just really appreciate that.
Hate crimes are complicated. They're not easy.
And this is something that we hear all the time, and I'm glad that you asked that. Not to, again, complicate the situation, but I just wanted to add on that the City Commission on Human Rights, which is unfortunately not here, they couldn't make it, is one of our partner agencies, and just because something isn't necessarily a hate crime legally, there are protections through our New York State human rights law that might apply to your instance. So things like discrimination in public spaces, in your workplace, in housing, etc. So again, if you reach out to one of us and maybe that is applicable to your situation, we'll be able to refer that. And they also have their own kind of investigative and enforcement agency around those protections through our state law. So just wanted to make sure people were aware of that. If you're experiencing discrimination, harassment in those areas, please reach out and we'll make sure you get to the right person.
Thank you so much, Eunice. I'm going to ask this panel a big question. Why do you think it's important for the Jewish and Asian American communities to stay united? And how can these two communities come together to support each other and advocate for change effectively?
I think when it comes to answering that question, it comes down to a very basic thing, right? That there are strength in numbers, right? So if you are two groups experiencing similar attacks based on who you are, and if you can come up with strategies that may have worked in your community, you can share them with others. And you can also, like I said before, hate crimes are very personal, right? It is an attack on who you are. So you can encourage each other, right, to report things and let people know. And it takes away a little bit of the stigma of feeling like you were victimized because of who you were. So I think really it is finding common ground in really what is a terrible situation, but using it to your benefit and pull your resources together and find strength in coming up with a solution jointly.
So I would add, sometimes hate is driven by misunderstandings and also fear. Because you do that and I don't understand why, I may have a problem with you. So when you're coming together as you are today, you're having a better understanding of each other culturally and even understanding why someone does something. when you come together and you do that, what happens is you're bringing a collaboration where you're building partnerships, you're building friendships. The young people, the younger generation sees that. They don't see a separation or a divide. So now they have no problems befriending someone who looks like them or who does not look like them. There's no fear in now inviting someone that doesn't look like them into their circle. When they walk into a room, they won't feel like they are an outcast. So I think that bring people together, sharing foods, sharing cultures, having, different parties and understanding why this person says this and this person says that, I think that is what is going to help kind of change an outlook or perspective on different cultures. That is how you're going to attack certain people that is more fearful of something new and something different than you would where I'm just hating you because that's just who I am. You're gonna always have that, but you can also change a narrative for people who are more fearful of change and the unknown.
That was beautifully said, both of you, and I love it. Very inspiring, and I definitely agree. I just want to echo and kind of mirror the sentiments. And I also want to say this is important because it works. I think we've all seen this work. We're all here because we believe it works, that people coming together, eating together, sitting at the same table. That's kind of like the inspiration for one of the initiatives that my office worked on, which is called Breaking Bread, Building Bonds. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it or participated. But basically this idea, and this is also kind of the foundation of our Partners Against the Hate Network, that we're stronger when we're working together. So in the kind of micro level of how this looks, members of our network will have each other's phone numbers. They'll have each other's emails. They'll text each other. If something is happening in their communities, they'll be able to reach out to someone else in a different community, a different leader, and be like, hey, this is going on. How do we work together? Or even Congresswoman Meng, I believe, had mentioned earlier, something has happened, you reach out, even if it's not your own community, and you're like, hey, I heard this happened. How do I help? How do I show up for you? And I've seen this work countless times. This is why this is kind of like the bread and butter and really the founding heart of our office. These are the ways that we're going to get through this together, work through this together, and I really believe that, so that's why.
Yeah, and just community is such a powerful resource, man. It really is. Community is just so valuable in so many ways, from prevention and being aware and sharing information of things to be aware of, things to look out for, things to be concerned with or be considerate of, to healing. If you are a victim, there's a reason why resource centers and help groups exist, because people heal better when they have a shared experience and they realize that they're not alone in the worst of moments of humankind. When people realize they're not alone, there's so much power in healing in that regard. And look, when marginalized communities come together, you're no longer marginalized because you have a voice that you otherwise didn't have before, and you have power that you otherwise didn't have before. I grew up in Southern California in a bit of a rough neighborhood, and there was always, I grew up in a very strong Mexican-American community, and there was always a conflict between the Black community and the Mexican community in my neighborhood because we were all looking for the same resources that were so limited. And it was always just so clear and obvious. If we just came together as a community of marginalized people, how much more would we have to share with each other? And it's just, it seems so obvious, but it's also always, much more complex than we're making it sound here on the stage. But it really is. Community is such a valuable resource. And when you expand your community to other communities and marginalized people who have shared experiences, it just makes us all the stronger.
That's beautiful. I also have a example for successful collaborations I would like to share with everyone. In 2020, during the height of COVID-19 pandemic, 74 Jewish groups across the United States, including AJC, signed a letter and expressed their support for Chinese Americans and Chinese communities, comforting the surge in xenophobia. So this act of solidarity was not isolated, but a continuation of long-standing relationship between our communities. As we discuss these questions, let's keep in mind the power of solidarity that has historically united our communities and the new opportunities that lie ahead to strengthen our bonds. Thank you to our panelists and to everyone in the audience for engaging in this critical conversation. Your participation is essential as we continue to build a community where hate has no place. Let's carry forward the spirit of unity and action we've fostered here tonight. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to our speakers for an engaging discussion and the audience for your questions. Now, please put your hands together. Join us for a special performance by Kosha, Dillz.
Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's up, everybody? Man, all my fans in the front row, they left. What's up? How's it going? Give it up for the people on the stage, everyone. What a cool place. Hey, there I am. My name is Rami Avanesh, Kosha Dillz. I'm a Brooklyn resident, and a lot of the music that I'm going to play is done since October 7th. I think this first song is called Ceasefire. I'm going to cue it up. And yeah, enjoy. And I'm excited to play it. Turn the beat up a little bit louder. Turn the beat up. Turn the beat. Hey. Let's go. I ain't no human shell, but I am human still. My name is Ramadan Evanesh. Some people call me Kosha Dillz. I'm outside rapping MSG or maybe podcasting, pointing fingers like, why did this happen? That's the wordplay. Have you ever spent 2 or 3 times with somebody explaining why we here in the first place? Keep it real, privilege is benefiting who don't suffer from the killing, but they trying to make millions. I got something to say, and you got nothing to say, but you be saying everything online, hoping that you get paid. Yo, you want that bagel Jew, that spin the dreidel Jew, curb your anti-Semitism, that Larry David Jew. Sorry, create a move, but sorry, I'm not fake as you. But I'm known to keep it real as this. They on that home team, but I pull a real ass switch. You want that free, what? Yo, Queens up in this lit. Okay, yo, you want that real fire? How about the facts for peace? You want a ceasefire? Please get the facts for me. Hey, problems, I'm working on it. Solutions, think I got it. Weapons down and no profit. Okay, release the hostage. You want that real fire? How about the facts for peace? You want a ceasefire? Please get the facts from me. Hey, problems, I'm working on it. Solutions, think I got it. Make some noise, Queen. But first, release the hostage. Is biz, yeah, deals be coming through, but I do not got a partner that make me so comfortable. Imagine sipping coffee with them, acting like they Milwaukee Buck with you, but when you turn around, they bucket you. This is a relationship I don't wanna be in. People watch them on TV, okay, they want to appease them. The only time they think we pretty is maybe on the weekend, but when the camera gone, guess what? Yo, there's mistreatment, where's the bad lie? Oh, where's the bad guy? I point a finger, you point a finger, yeah, that guy. Come on, what's wrong? This house, this fence, this lawn, these bridge, these bombs, this can't go on okay, but it's real, too many hands in the pot, so I'm ill, can't control when they spot. Actions speak way louder than thoughts. Da 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 da. We fighting over a bunch of rocks, some build houses and some build ops. Let's get together, work them props. I don't care how, but everybody watch. You want that real fire? How about the facts for peace? You want a ceasefire? Please get the facts from me. Hey, problems, I'm working on it. Solutions, think I got it. Weapons down and no profit. Okay, release the hostage. You want that real fire? How about the facts for peace? You want a ceasefire? Please get the facts from me. Problems, I'm working on it. Solutions, think I got it. Weapons down and no profit. Okay, release the hostage. Thank you. That song was about what was recently denied, which is a ceasefire, and the order of operations which people are fighting over every single day since October 7th of how the war should go. So that's that song. Some receive it well, some receive it not well, but it will be received. The next song is called Schmoozing. It's a little bit lighter. Does everyone know some Yiddish in here? Okay. Yiddish is sort of like this ancient language, right? But everyone clench your fists like this. We're going to do a little crowd participation, okay? Clench your fist there, especially you with the arms crossed. Clench your fist like this, yes? Clench it like this. On the count of 3, go schmoozing. 1, 2, 3, schmoozing. But schmooze loud. 1, 2, 3. For bringing the party. Who's in? For bringing the party. Jewish. You scream Jewish really loud. Don't worry, you can't get canceled in here. Okay. So this is a fun song teaching you a little bit of Yiddish. It's a fun party song. When we're schmoozing, we're talking. We're hanging out, you know? I don't know if there's a word in that for Chinese or Hebrew, but Yiddish, it's definitely a New York thing, and that's what I love about New York City. Let's do it. All right, everyone. Schmoozing positions. So cool. My mom's going to be so proud I'm on a big screen. Hey, here we go. Committee 100, thank you guys so much. Thank you, AJC. Thank you, QJCC. You guys ready? It goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Schmoozin' for bringing the party. Who's in? For bringing the party. Jewish. You guys got to scream Jewish really loud. Trust me, it's all right. There you go. I know you're going to do it, right? Here we go. Okay, schmoozin' for bringing the party. Who's in? For bringing the party. The models and puppy, bottles of bubbly. I know you love me. Boy chick, it's been years since my Bristol. Mr. Potato with style brisket, kanishfo for clump. Bagela, butting around and you ain't ever from Montauk when they come into town. Trade tuchers, Kosha be under the style. Yentas on young tip and they run in their mouth. As Sadie with a fat zuptig up in the house. This is for my baby mamas and my bubby who down. So I snore so loud when I sleep I can't. I met a nice girl and she wants to dance. Maybe they from Queens, maybe they from France. If they don't want that, ask they friends. Okay, kish from Canada's in the kibitz room. Holy moly, shamoli, she looking for a shidduch soon. I'm straight Meshuggah, schwitzing, I'm into June. B-mentions really cool. Hands in the air, Queens are feeling you. Schmoozin' for bringing the party. Who's in? For bringing the party. You guys gotta scream Jewish really loud so everyone feels uncomfortable. Perfect, ready to go. Schmoozin' for bringing the party. Who's in? For bringing the party. There you go, here we go. Alta caca to a balabuster. Cherish from the fact I'll probably have to meet the mother. Waiting for the chullin' of life. Not chutzpah, the chullin' is tight. Okay, chullin' the wife. I stay grinding. Far cocked it in the brain. Everything I spit, tip-top, insane. Yiddish flow, I'm a hustler. Bubble up with brains, rapping like this on the stage, and everybody go insane. Fan MS, no stain. Sharp like my pen is. Nudnik in the rap game, respected. Boy chick don't act out like a schmendrick. Kosha cuts and the macha gets spoiled. M&M style, 8 moil. With the nachas, the stuff I enjoy. Don't nudge, I hate to be annoyed. Mom says stop schmoozing with the shiksas. Boys, you need to get married. You're still unemployed, Mom says. Nicht der Kreuzem Metzir. Yo, Queens, put your hands here. Schmoozing for bringing the party. Who's in? For bringing the party. The models and Bobby. Screaming really loud, and next time I promise you, schmoozing for bringing the party. Who's in? For bringing the party. You guys said Jewish like an ordinary Jewish event. Like everyone's participating, but sometimes they're not. It's funny. Make some noise for yourselves, everyone. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, so for my last song, it's a shorter song. It's called Bring the Family Home. I wrote this song on October 7th. I was playing a festival, and I made this song about doing one thing that we could all align, which for me, which a lot of family friends, and my mother had friends, grandkids that were kidnapped, and I thought we could all align with freeing the hostages. And this was something for me. I'm Israeli-American, and we'll talk about that later in the panel. So let's do this one. It's called Bring the Family Home, and I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. I'm excited to see our next act, Rebecca. Thank you. Turn this one up. Here we go. Yeah. Hey. Here we go. Yeah. Oh, say yeah. Oh, say yeah. Yo, from Kanye to Hamas, it's all the same. Namaste, synagogue to Hamas, prayer, he'll pain. I march for BLM, I march for Ukraine, but this time me and my people in the Negev need rain. See, I used to get punched in the face, but now I do the punching. My family heated, cause most of us died in the oven. I went from what the F they discussing to staying disgusted. Why you hiding from the enemy? Children can't eat school lunches. Addicted to the internet, share the sickest image. I put my yarmulke on, not even religious with it. Grandparents, women, and children, you terrorist kittens get lost. Pissed off, I'd rather be a man today. So I said bye then, take the billions, then I ran away. Guess what? I got time to talk to fans today. Where's God? Who gon' believe in us? Y'all play detective, figure out the media, cause every click make a little money off the hype. Roger Waters, not today and not tonight. 50 years since YK and all y'all gon' remember tonight. Hands up, we live live. Bring the family home, we got the world saying, cry to death, I can't sleep, that's the worst pain. I remember tonight, the night the world changed, the line just roared. And then we sing it, Queens, yeah. Bring the family home, we got the world saying, cry to death, I can't sleep, that's the worst pain. I remember tonight, the night the world changed, the line just roared, y'all can't hurt me. Yo, this is for social justice, keyboard, what about us? For every family member murdered and wasn't counted, I rise up for peace. History shows that we offer first. When it comes to context, that's a new trigger word. Victory is ours, the people know the time. I believe in coexisting, you believe in being co-signed. The image is a graphic, I don't need to be reminded. Don't share a fake infographic, new form of violence. I'm trying to be the great one. Dear allies, don't be the fake one. Wrote your name down, it's time to wake up. Stop using the lies for money, immediate clicks. And me, Khalifa, I can't say the rest of this strong in public. Okay, hey, bring the family home, we got the world saying. Bring the family home, we got the world saying. Sing it, bring the family home, we got the world saying. Bring the family home, we got the world saying. Thank you guys so much.
Give it up one more time for Kosha, Dillz.
Thank you. Big
Now-
thanks. See you guys in a little bit.
Now, please welcome to the stage New York City-based performer, writer, and producer, Rebecca Lee Lerman.
Thank you for having me. So representation and diversity in theater is really important to me, and this was one of the first times I saw myself represented on the big screen. So this is Reflection from Mulan. Look at me, you may think you see who I really am, but you'll never know me every day. It's as if I play a part. Now I see that if I were truly to be myself, I would break my family's heart. Who is that girl I see staring straight back at me? Why is my reflection someone I don't know? Somehow I cannot hide who I am, though I've tried. When will my reflection show who I am inside? When will my reflection show who I am inside? Oh, this next song is a Hebrew prayer that I used to sing growing up in Jewish sleepaway camp. And whenever I would sing it with my fellow campers, I did feel like we were in a collective healing. So this is Eli, Eli.
you.
Another round of applause for Rebecca and for Kosha. Now, joining our performers on stage is Laura Epstein, AJC Access New York Vice President, for a brief fireside chat.
Apparently this was on, but now it is for sure. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for your performances tonight, guys. Ending with a bang. So I do have a few questions for you guys while we have you. You both spoke a little bit about your relationships with the Jewish and the AAPI communities. I'm hoping if you could tell us a little bit more about yourselves and why performing at an event like this is so meaningful to you. Whoever wants to take it first, take it away.
Ladies first, please.
Well, I took a 23andMe test, and I am actually 50% Ashkenazi Jewish and 50% Chinese, straight down the middle. So this event is incredibly, I am so honored to be here. I feel like I'm in the right place
Target
with
market.
my Asian Jewish people. So yeah, and I write a lot for mixed Asian people. I try to write roles and to represent people who have two or more ethnicities combined in one, because I think that's a very important story to tell.
So just in regards to the target market, I mean, when it comes to being Jewish, my first name is Rami, which is also a Middle Eastern name, so people would always ask me, where are you from? And this was always a thing, but people didn't know. So when I took the name Kosha Dillz, it was sort of like a stamp on, definitely I'm Jewish. And just navigating that as an artist, it's extremely exciting when you were previously, in comparison to Rebecca, how she's 50-50, I could either volunteer to disclose who I am or not. So a big part of me was being proud of who I am and sort of empowering myself through the music. And when you put yourself out there to be judged, it is extremely liberating experience, because even though you do care about what people think, you start to shed that. And as an artist, it's, we kind of want to please everybody, but what actually empowers us is like the unique strength of being special, and not everyone could be that. So a lot of my music is just, a representation of who I am, which is my whole family was born in Israel, so I have the ability to comment on specific things that I could comment on, and just like her, she could, stand for certain things that's unique to you, and so my relationship with AAPI is just one of my favorite rappers growing up was Chinese. I was explaining to her, Jin, when I started battle rapping, this amazing Chinese rapper, he was just like, oh, he was the Chinese guy and I was the Jewish guy, and then I'm on a show which is similar to that, which Wild and Out, there's like a one of each, and you become the representative of your community within another community, and whenever something happens, we kind of like, hey, that's us, So, it's exciting, and also it stinks because a lot of times we get the spotlight on us when bad things happen. So it's nice to be in a more celebratory situation.
So you made a really interesting point, and I'd love to build off of it and open up the question to both of you. So, Kosha Dillz, you were talking about how the music that you produce for your fans, you're allowed to make a statement that's important to you. So in today's world, how do you hope your music encourages others to make positive impacts, help combat hate, raise awareness?
Well,
what's that channel for both of you?
To be honest, it's a broad question, but I'll make it specifically to after October 7th. The song Schmoozin' I did is like an idea of celebratory things that, I shot that music video in Israel, but it was Yiddish, and it was a really cool experience to bridge that gap. I made it with a Brazilian producer. Bring the Family Home was like, this is about war, and I looked to like Leonard Cohen, who sang Hallelujah, and that was a big thing when he went to perform for soldiers, and I'm like, I'm becoming sort of this popular figure after people have attacked us, and the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust. And I'm like, I'm making songs that are empowering my people. If you feel empowered by it, to empower your people. And I get a lot of thank yous versus, hey, I love your lyrics to this song. I get a lot of thank yous. I think it's really important I'm so grateful for the community, because if I wasn't saying anything, there's no other artist specifically. There's me, there's Madasiahu on a pop culture level. And it just goes to show you the power of community, because I grew like 100,000 followers from sticking up for my people, which I was doing before, but there was nothing drastic that happened. And I think, these moments, you're always like built for something, I would say. It could be this one moment where you're gonna get the push into the forefront. Ideally, if there was some crazy thing that happened where people attacked, or not ideally, but like Chinese and Jewish people, they're gonna look for somebody like yourself to be like, we want someone to speak. And that's what I realized about the world, is that we're going to get an opportunity to be in the forefront, and then what song are you going to create to heal the world properly? And for me, it was, I'll do a ceasefire song, but I'll also do Bring the Family Home. And then I did another song that was about mental health, and then I did another song. So I'm trying to cover all ends, because for me to properly expose like anti-Semitism, I have to also sometimes hop in the mind of somebody who hates me and create something to check off all the boxes. And I know that's an odd way to think, but it is becoming more enjoyable to think as a creative as I got older, and little things I just see as the world changed, because I was making music before MySpace. So to see how the world reacts to everything now, you can't just do a nice song and hope. You almost have to be in a spotlight and sing Broadway or sing, it's just different aspects, and we all have our own lane. And hopefully we can meet at the end of the road, I guess. That's it. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, well, as an artist, I tend to write when I'm in a lot of pain. However, we as artists transmute our pain into something really beautiful and can provide a catharsis for others. And I feel like people who hate are also in a lot of pain. And I feel like when people of color, people who are not of the same ethnicity as the viewer, can tell their story and say to people, hey, I hurt too. This is my story of heartbreak. This is my story of wanting love or wanting to be accepted or not feeling enough. Everyone feels like that at one point or another. And if it is a person of another color saying this, and we can show others that we are human too, that can perhaps at a high platform, or for as many people as can listen, we can provide change in this world.
So quite literally, it's important to listen to the music. As performers, I'm sure you'd both argue, it's the listening and really hearing what someone else has to say. So to wrap this up, I always like to end with kind of a call to action, and we have all sorts of different generations and different people representing different communities here. I guess, what would be your call to action to people listening to you today? What would you instill in them, have them take from your performances today out into their communities, their friends, their families, having heard your messages?
Okay, I'll jump in. Well, I think, you don't have to wait till a special month to amplify special voices. It doesn't, it's June, so today, Asian American Pacific Islander month, and I missed the Jewish month, which was May. People hate you all year round. There's no bad reason to just get into the thing. I just met 5 great people, and LGBTQ. It doesn't have to be Pride Month, but that does share an extra time. If you think internet-wise, people are focusing on these things. That's why you see major brands and companies and even the MTA changing everything to a rainbow, and then another. But as a person, share other artists that you think, especially that people wouldn't expect it. So I do something called Friendship Friday, where I just amplify people on Friday, because I'm a very self-seeking, selfish artist, so I want to share a bunch of people, and I want 10 points because I share 10 people in one day. And I take, black, brown, Jewish, woman, gay, straight, whatever, and I put them, they all would have never know each other, but I know them personally, and I want to put them, I'll put you next to somebody else, and they would never expect to be shared, because for most of my career, I became popular when people would like hate Jews, and then they like, Kanye West, Macklemore, all these things, and then you get you become subject to like the media stipulation. But Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, we have this ability, and events like this, you could sort of create the way that you want to be portrayed, and there's no one paying you for it, so you could do it because you would like to. So I say, do that. Yeah. And share my stuff too, and her stuff. That's all we kind of want as artists. It's like, show us off to your friends. It doesn't have to be in a bad light. It doesn't be like, oh, people attack Jews this month, so here, check out Kosha Dillz. Like, I want to be, we want to be out there all the time, but that's sort of the balancing act.
All right, no pressure, but close us out, Rebecca.
But as Kosha was saying, hold spaces to celebrate the diversity in this world, and hold space for representation and inclusion, and also hold spaces to listen to others, like not just sharing our art, but then holding space for us to listen to the audience and making sure that they're seen and heard, and they feel represented.
I think that's the perfect place to wrap things up with this discussion. Thank you guys so much for joining us, for sharing your thoughts and your talents. This was wonderful. And thank you all for being such wonderful audience members.
Another round of applause for our speakers and for our performers. I just want to say thank you on behalf of AJC, on behalf of the Committee of 100, and on behalf of QJCC for joining us this evening. And please take a tote bag on your way out.
There's a tote bag on the way out. Please take it. There is a flashlight. There is a yellow whistle that says "We belong." Make lots of noise to speak on behalf of the community. And then also, importantly, we had some great panelists. FBI has left some literature, including their Citizen Academy program. Please take a look, as well as information on how you can report directly to them. So thank you all very much, and we appreciate all of you being here.